You're not getting offered a professional deal. But he goes, this hasn't been done before. We want to offer you a job as a technical skills coach within the academy. Five of them were awarded a professional contract. So I got to see what they were like as first year pros. And it wasn't all it's cut out to be, believe me. So they weren't often in the first team squad. If you're not playing in the top league, you're playing in the bottom leagues, then, you're going to be scrapping when you hit 40, 50, 60. There's no longevity in that. Sheer frequency of training and the quality of training was higher back home. So I was like, okay, it might have to be a plan E. I've got a stable full-time job that's earning more than first year professionals would do, and I get to play reserve team football. I don't want, when everyone thinks of me, I don't want them to think, oh yeah, football. I think it's going to be more.
James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Great. I am, again, intrigued with our conversation because I think your path to where you are today has been really interesting and I think quite deliberate in some respects and taking opportunities as they appear in others. So really keen to peel back and understand a bit of your thinking and understand your perspective.
Yeah, hopefully I can give your listeners a little bit of experience from me, a little bit of advice and things that I would continue to do and would have done differently given a chance again.
Brilliant. That's exactly what this chat is about and why people tune in. So, James, let's start with today. Tell me about you. Tell me about Bisterra. Where are you right now?
So Bisterra Soccer Training we're a supplemental soccer training company based in Albany, New York, which is like 3 hours north of Manhattan. Whenever I say New York, everyone just thinks New York City straight away. So just to clarify, we're 3 hours north. And what we do, we're not a team, we're not a club. The whole concept came about in 2014 when I was just leaving university. Didn't know what to do. So decided to do a little bit of private coaching because I was doing club coaching before, but I just wasn't satisfied with players. Say you've got 16 players within the team. Every training session, I didn't feel like I was maximizing every single player's potential and development. So just started with the one-on-one, the small groups. I felt like I was getting a lot more personally out of that. I was enjoying that more. And I felt as though the players were more engaged and they were getting more out in that environment. So that's how the whole concept came about. Fast forward to present day, we are partnered with Nike Sports Camps. We're operating out of 6 different states for camps. We've got well over 600 clients operating in individual small group sessions. And we also do club development sessions too, where a lot of the clubs in the area are kind of grassroots with parent volunteer coaches. So they'll hire us to come in and do the training sessions. The parents will be there. They'll have a bit of coaching education, and then they'll coach the teams on the weekend. So those are the main facets of the business currently.
I really like that, the journey, even from starting the business to where you are today and the way you ended with where you are right now. So it still sounds like there's room to grow for the organization and for you as someone running that company as well.
Yeah, it's exciting, also pretty daunting as well. We've a month ago we moved into an office. I did a bit of work experience when I was growing up in an office, like a summer internship, and I hated it. I was just stuck behind the desk, and I'm like, this is not for me. So the fact that I've moved into an office now, we've got 6 staff members there full time, but in terms of productivity and room for growth, as you said, it's just seemed as though we've got more done within the past month than we've done in the past year. It's a collective think tank. We're constantly thinking new ideas, things that we can do. Problems are being solved quicker. So, yeah, like you said, it's very daunting, but also an exciting time too.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, let's rewind a bit, because I suppose now I'm intrigued. This whole not wanting to be stuck behind the desk, and now you find yourself in there. So let's wind it back, I guess, to probably around the time of that work experience, and just help me understand then what was football to you as you were growing up, and what was the career like for you?
So I started playing when I was around 5, and I can vividly remember a flyer that I got in school, that it was like, go and play on a Saturday morning. It's just like lads and dads. So went there with my dad, just had a kick around. Remember loving it. And pretty early on, I got scouted by Port Vale. So for your listeners who don't know, Port Vale are a professional club bopping around the third or fourth league of English football, typically promoted and relegated. They're always yo-yoing around those leagues. They're the only club that have never been in the first division, that are currently in the professional pyramid. I think that's a little fun fact there.
Yeah, I didn't,
Um,
I really didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. So I got picked up by them when I was 6, and I supported Port Vale. So my friend who was on the podcast the other week, Matt Hemsley, he played for. He loved Leicester City, and that's all he wanted to do was play for Leicester City. So for me to have the opportunity to go and play for Port Vale, even though I was a 6-year-old,
Yeah,
it was just a fantastic opportunity, and I was just so excited to just be a part of the club, get to put on the kit. So I managed to work my way through from 6 years old all the way through to 19 years old. And there was a long journey there within
yeah,
that youth academy.
yeah. Wow. So that is amazing achieving at 6, little boy's dream. So I'm guessing from that you wanted to be a footballer your entire life.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't neglect schoolwork. My parents were very supportive of football, but they always made me aware that school comes first. So I was never allowed to slack off in school. And I was always kind of motivated anyway to do the schoolwork and to give it my all, give it my best. But yeah, my first love was football, still is football.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, it's good, and like you say, still is football. You're still getting to live that. You still have football in your life in what you're doing. So I'm curious then. Obviously at 16 there were some big decisions to be made about what you're doing as a footballer, and then certainly at the age of 19. So what sorts of were there any trade-offs for you? Do you feel you had to trade anything off as you grew up in that football structure?
I don't think so. But at 16, so you work all the way through from under 6 to under 16, and every year it's the retained or release list. So coaches are telling 9, 10-year-olds that you're either good enough or you're not good enough, and we're gonna
Yeah.
release you or we're gonna have you back next year, as you're aware. So to just go through that built certain traits that I still continue today. That ability to not settle, to give it my all every training session, every day that I go into the office now, every time that I'm coaching, to give it my best, because you never know if it's going to be taken away.
Mhm.
But also at 16 years old, a lot of the lads my age got an apprenticeship, so a 2-year apprenticeship, the scholarship, the YTS. I didn't get offered that. I got an extended schoolboy contract, which
Right.
basically meant that I was put on a year kind of trial within the youth team. So it hadn't been done before at the club. They didn't want to release me,
Mhm.
but they didn't want to award me a 2-year apprenticeship because I was very undersized. So they just said, we'll give you a year, see how you develop in the youth team. And then after that 1 year, then you will either be released
Mhm.
or you'll get the 2-year apprenticeship.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm just curious, just
sorry.
in that moment, you've been on extended schoolboy. What was that like for you? playing in that team amongst others who were on, I guess, that full scholarship or the full apprenticeship scheme?
Again, it was tough at the time because it felt like a bit of kick in the teeth. But on the flip side, my dad was like, "Well, you could have been released." So they obviously see something in you. Technically, you're there, but physically, you know, you've got a 14-year-old's body when you're competing against some lads who are 18 years old, but they've got a 22-year-old body. So you have to like take advantage of this full-time opportunity. Yes, you're not getting the same benefits as the lads on the scholarship, but now is a time where you can go in full time, and you can, get in the gym and work on the things that they want you to work on. And hopefully, you get awarded a scholarship at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. So keep going then. I mean, so you've got me hooked.
Keeping you on the edge of the seat, yes.
Right, I'm ready.
So from the extended schoolboy, I was effectively on the Saturdays training with weekdays I was training with the youth team. On Saturdays, I would go with the youth team, sit on the bench the entire game. And then on Sundays, I'd go and play for the under 16s. So that was my journey. And I can remember the youth team manager coming to me on one Monday morning and he's like, "When was the last day you had off?" And I was like, I haven't really had a day off since I've got here. It's just been 7 days a week. And again, I'm a Port Vale fan, so I loved it all. I didn't really, think, "Oh, I need a day off." And that was never a thought of mine. But he says, "Look, go home now. Like, don't forget about training today. You can go home. Just have the rest of the day off and just relax and recuperate." But throughout that year, the extended schoolboy, I showed them enough where I was awarded a 2-year apprenticeship at the end of that season. So that basically pushed my timeline on 1 year, which I think was, looking back, was a very, very significant point in my life because, one, I got to see the lads my age after the scholarship. 5 of them were awarded a professional contract. So I got to see what they were like as first year pros.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all it's cut out to be, believe me. So they weren't often in the first team squad. So that meant Saturday mornings coming in early, running, and then they'd have to go and watch the first team play. And speaking to them, coming up through the ranks with them and speaking to them about their experience as a professional player, it wasn't, all the glamour and the glitz of the Premier League. It's, you're a League Two footballer not getting in the first team squad. So that was pretty eye-opening too.
And it is a side of professional sport that most people don't see. Indeed, I should say, many people aren't privileged to find themselves in that position. It's something that they all want to be. And for those who don't want to necessarily see that, be in that position, they don't know what it is like. And so I'm curious then for you to have been so close to that dream, being an apprentice, looking at those people going through that dream. How did that change your perception of wanting to become a footballer?
Well, I think it started because every time the first team would play at home, all the way through the younger age groups where I was from under 6 to under 16s, we'd get free tickets to go and watch the home games. So obviously being a fan, it's unbelievable for me. I'd go and watch every home game of my favourite team. Obviously going into train full time, it was kind of like I'm pulling back the curtain. I can see, okay. So I know the tea lady now. Before, you're kind of behind the curtain and you're like, "Oh, what's going on behind there? Like, I'd love to be a part of that." So the first extended schoolboy contract for me was, the first year was unbelievable. Me getting to go into the first team changing rooms, and I'm sweeping up the first team changing room floor. That was my job, and I was just buzzing to be there. But as you said, the lads that were my age, and it just took a little bit of the shine off things when they got a professional contract, but they're not treated as professionals. So I was thinking, okay, maybe the glitz and the glamour of being a pro isn't all it's cut out to be. Mm-hmm. I may have to rethink this a little bit, because these lads are better than me, and they're not getting in the first team squad, never mind the starting 11. So if they can't do it, how am I gonna cope in this situation? So I think that was the biggest eye opener.
Yeah, and that, I mean, essentially what's coming there is this reality of what your dream is. And I think for many, we try, or at least those who I work with, we do a lot of visualization, and it's trying to understand, where do you want to be? What is your dream? And moving that from this, I guess, fantasy into something that's real. And there your dream was, well, becoming real right in front of your eyes. And it wasn't necessarily what you hoped it would be. So what decision, what was your process then to make that next decision?
Well, I wasn't in charge of the decision for a professional contract. That was all down to the first team manager, who at the time was Mickey Adams, who had experience managing in the Premier League with Leicester City, very experienced manager. And the second year of my scholarship, I was competing for the centre midfield position with Sam Morsey, who's currently the captain of Ipswich Town.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to show the type of player that I was competing against. So
Yeah.
he was getting called up a lot to first team training sessions. So before the definite decision had been made, I'm looking and I'm thinking, well, it's going to be Morsey, it's not going to be me. So what's the plan B for me?
Right.
And as I said, the benefit of this extended schoolboy is that part of the program as an apprenticeship, you have to complete your level 2 coaching badge. So I did my level 2 coaching badge with my age group.
Yeah.
But then a year, and I absolutely loved it. I was like, wow, this is a bit of me. So I can see a future in this, especially when the instructors are saying, you're pretty good at this. You might want to enroll onto the UEFA B next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the summer, just before my last year of my apprenticeship, I went to do the UEFA B course. So I was 18 years old at the time. Went down and got to experience it at West Bromwich Albion, with a lot of the demographic there was older players that are just coming to the end of their game. They're coming to retirement and they're looking at what's next. So they're doing all their coaching badges. I'm there as an 18-year-old, and I'm thinking, well, one, if I get my coaching badge, great. Two, it's given me the experience to help me out as a player too, because I understand certain concepts from a coach's perspective as well. So getting that UEFA B also give me that idea of, I can see a future in this. So that was massively important. And then the decision of, James, you're not going to be a professional footballer at Port Vale, came in February of 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How was that delivered? And how did you walk out, and what happened next for you? Like immediately after that?
It was a Friday morning, and we're all sitting in the changing rooms getting ready to go out to training. No one's been told yet whether they're getting released or a professional deal. I get called first, and it was out of the blue, completely out of the blue. We didn't know it was going to be today. So the youth team manager comes in and says, Gaffer wants to speak to you in his office. So walk in the corridor, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to get a professional deal if this is what it's about. So I sat down and he said, look, love everything about you, love your personality, love your attitude, your willingness to learn, your technical ability. You can cope with the level, but physically, you're just not there. And we've not got the budget to keep you and kind of allow you that time to kind of grow into your body. So he said, you're going to be released. You're not getting offered a professional deal. But he goes, this hasn't been done before. We want to offer you a job as a technical skills coach within the academy. So it's a full-time position. We'll keep your playing registration. So you'll still play the reserves and you'll get a full-time salary. So it's a bit of a hard-hitting, you're not a professional.
Yes.
But on reflection, I've got a stable full-time job that's earning more than first-year professionals would do,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to play reserve team football, which, again, the lads that I'd come up with who are pros, that's what they were doing anyway. I'd just be earning more money than them.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll take that. So went out to train. The lads are, you know, giving me the condolences. Sorry about this. Sorry about that. I'm like, look, I'm fine with it. I've accepted it. I knew it was coming. I was just excited to have the opportunity to coach and be the technical skills coach for the academy.
Yeah. Now, that wasn't your plan B, though, was it?
It wasn't my plan B. My plan B was probably to go to university and study a coaching degree and then get a coaching job. So the fact that I was offered a coaching job without even applying or anything, I was like, yeah, I'll take that, absolutely. If it keeps me within the game, it keeps me at Port Vale. That was a win-win for me.
Yeah. And you speak there about the financial reward. So you're still getting to play, but there's a financial aspect to it. So as this progressed, was that something that made you reflect on whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, or were you still more concerned about the am I playing or not playing? What was the key motivator for you?
Um, am I playing or not playing was definitely a big factor. Am I playing at a good level? I didn't want to give up on the dream completely at 19 years old. Um, from the financial part, it was nice to have a bit of stability because that extended schoolboy year, I wasn't getting paid at all. So I'd be getting the bus into training, you know, an hour early, and I was cleaning. I was the boot boy, so I was cleaning the pros' boots. So I'd have 5 players' boots that I was cleaning every single day, just to earn a little bit of money, so I could, catch the buzz in and stuff like that. So that offer of stability in a full-time position was something that I'd never really experienced before. So it was nice to have that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so continuing down then your journey, this technical skills coach offer, um, what did it make you? Well, how was that for you as an experience?
It never happened. So, as luck would have it, the same weekend, so I got released on Friday.
Yeah.
That weekend, um, I get a phone call from my old high school PE teacher, and he said, "What's the situation?" So I told him. I said, "I got released yesterday." He goes, "Interesting. I've got." He did a summer camp out in America one year, and he got connected with a coach.
Yeah.
And he said, "My friend out in America, who's the assistant coach at Siena College, a university in New York, wants a centre midfield player. Are you interested?" So I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. I've been offered this technical skills coach.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested in what he's got to say. So that next week, we set up a Skype session. And with my parents, Steve Wazorek is the guy that he's speaking about. He was the assistant coach. He's like, look, there's an opportunity of a degree here, an opportunity to play at a good level. Obviously, the experience of coming out to America. So I went and told Port Vale, and I said, look, this is the predicament I'm in. I verbally accepted your offer. What would you do in my situation?
Mm.
And he said, you've got to go. If you can go, go. Because, it's the experience of a lifetime. So they were really, really understanding, and I really admire them for that, because obviously I like to think they thought well of me to not only offer me the technical skills coach, keeping me within the club, but also to have the foresight to say, look, you've got to go here.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good from them.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you ask them their opinion?
Because I valued them. I'd known them for three years and
Yeah.
working with them every day for 3 years, even though it is a cutthroat business, I felt as though they did have my best intentions at heart. So their advice was good. It wasn't something that I was 100%, relying on. But again, I had given my verbal commitment, and I do honor my word. So I just wanted to get their opinion too.
Yeah. And I mean, it is great that you were given that opportunity, and I think something we'll continue to delve into as we go through your story, because obviously you did make that move, and you did find yourself overseas and enjoying that experience. Now, it was a shift in terms of that it was a shift in the strategy to achieve your dream of being a professional football player. It wasn't the plan. In fact, we're now on plan D, as I'm keeping count. But where you ended up, how did your dream shift or change? Did you get on that plane with a different sense of, do I want to be a professional footballer? Where were you, mentally at that time?
I still wanted to be a pro. Going on that plane, I still wanted to be a pro. And I thought, this will keep me in the game for 4 years. There's opportunities out in the States to play professionally. So I'm going to give it my all to play pro. Getting there to America, the way in which the season works is very different than back home. So landed in August, the middle of August, straight into pre-season for a week. And then games start at the end of August. You're playing Friday night at 7 o'clock, a 90-minute game, and then Sunday at 1 o'clock, which I couldn't wrap my head around. I was like, how is the body meant to recover? And then you'd play 18 games. So your season's done by early November if you don't make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then from November to January, you're off, no training. January to April is training 3 or 4 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got your summers off.
Yeah.
So I quickly realized, I'm not getting the volume and frequency of training that I need to in order to really give this a go as a pro in the college system, because the lads back home, you're training every day, you're probably off 1 day a week, but the sheer frequency of training and the quality of training was higher back home. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it might have to be a plan E.
Yeah. We're now doing a disservice. We'll have to change our counting. We're doing a disservice to
I
where
know
you're at.
you're going to run out of letters soon, mate. The alphabet's done.
Yeah. But I mean, it's fascinating you realize that, because, there's a lot of things we talk about as professional athletes where it is getting the hours and getting in that intentional, purposeful practice. And for you to start to recognize very early on that if you did only that system or that approach, you would not attain, well, the level you knew you needed to attain to become a professional footballer. What change? You had this plan. Having a plan is important. What did you change?
I think just enjoying the experience. So I think when you're a player, it's very easy to get caught up on what's next, what's next, what's next, and not really enjoying the present.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I had a bit of a mindset shift where I was just focused on the now, like this game, really enjoying myself on the field, enjoying aspects off the field too that comes with an American college. Because in terms of discipline, you have to be very disciplined if you want to reach it to the top of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of players, we only hear, the success stories, I was so disciplined, I did this, I missed this for this. Some of the unsuccessful stories are, I sacrificed this and I didn't achieve my goal. So I didn't want that to be my case. I wanted to enjoy every experience that I was a part of in the present moment. And again, adapt to whatever thing came next, and trying to make the best situation out of that.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear. Is how you took you got this dream, you've got this plan of what you want to achieve. In essence, what you shifted was that mindset. You shifted your mindset in enjoying the journey, enjoying the path that you're on right now, and it does sound like by putting your best intentions into what you're doing in the moment, that will actually achieve your best outcome.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just that, controlling the controllables. Like, I can't decide if I'm going to get picked up by an MLS team. The game's full of opinions. What I can control is the environment that I'm in currently, and how I can control factors to manipulate that to the best of my ability. So in training, can I turn up, you know, before everyone else? Can I control that? Yeah. So I can do that. Can I stay after everyone else? Yes. Can I make sure I approach everything with discipline and professionalism as I would have back home? Yes. Don't let the standards slip. So I think for the younger athletes that are listening, who haven't transitioned out of the game yet, it's making sure that discipline and that professionalism is never lost, whatever environment that you're currently in.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. It's beautifully said, in fact, because it is taking control of what you can, and it's focusing on essentially the small bits. It's breaking that process down. You talk there about be it punctuality, be it effort put in, be it the discipline around maintaining those standards, and that's something, as you've just said, is really important to maintain in sport and in your life after sport as well, as that certainly continues. And so for you, coming out of that college experience, what you started enjoying the journey, you started making sure you're doing those steps right. As you were then exiting college, what was success supposed to be for you?
There's a couple of options. Go on trial at some American teams, so professional teams, not MLS. I wasn't up to that standard. Um, I think having the foresight to be realistic, optimistic but realistic at the same time. So it'd be going to lower league American teams, but the issue is obviously the visa. So am I a good enough player where teams will pay to have me stay on a visa? Yeah, but I wouldn't be in a stable position. I'd probably have a year contract and then I'd have to move on. Would I be, moving across the country? So for me, it was more so, what can I control here in terms of visa situations and a job that has the potential for sustainability and stability too.
Mm-hmm.
So hence setting up Bisterra. Originally it was Beeston Soccer Training, so originally it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike Matera, the American co-founder of Bisterra, came on board as well. And just having him was a massive, massive positive for not only myself but the business too.
In what way?
Well, we were teammates at college. He was undecided about what he was going to do after graduating. So we were living together and just kind of trying to figure things out one day at a time. So initially it was, can we earn enough money through private sessions where, we can have bananas and peanut butter? This is the running joke. So like, that was what I would eat, just bananas and peanut butter. We were sleeping each on a mattress. Like, it was great because it was very exciting. We felt as though we were always in control of our environment. We weren't relying on anyone else. But also it is, like I said, quite daunting where, what if no one signs up? What if we don't bring this in? Then But just having him collaborative throughout the whole journey has been huge. Just for the traits and the skill set that he brings to the business too.
Mm. So before we step into that bit, I just want to take you back to, again, one of the words you mentioned there was stability, and a phrase I use a lot is, I guess, the sustained success. So sustainable success, and there, as I was asking you, what is success, and you were really looking about, well, if you play football, you could get moved loads of different places. You wouldn't be necessarily in as much control as you wanted. So you look for something that would give you more stability. And then you start talking about setting up your own business. And yeah, help me understand here. You're saying being a footballer on a 1-year contract is less stable than actually setting up your own business.
I think we have to look at the long-term picture of this. So for a professional footballer, it's not only unstable, the career span, the lifespan of a professional footballer. If you play to late 30s, you've had a very good career.
Yes.
If you're not playing in the top league, you're playing in the bottom leagues, then you're going to be scrapping when you hit 40, 50, 60. There's no longevity in that. So I think for myself and Mike, we didn't mind, that instability initially, knowing that we could build something that is more sustainable and stable in the long run.
Yeah. And that's something that, being your business, is something you feel you'd be able to have some control over. We speak about sport or football in this instance being full of opinions, and that perspective, it's, as much as we bring data into it, it's still quite a subjective approach. And what you're saying is, by setting up your business, by creating your own environment, you felt you had a bit more control in your destiny and that path.
Yeah, and so alongside Bisterra, we also went to do college coaching. So we were assistants at the College of St. Rose, still in the same area, but we both wanted to coach. We didn't realize there's this shiny thing that comes with being a university, a college coach. There's the glitz and the glam of that. But again, we saw the ins and outs of what it means to be a college coach. So after 1 year in New York as a college coach, my visa was up for renewal. So I actually made a little trip down to Alabama for 3 years to get a master's degree. So I stayed on a student visa. I was still a college coach down in Alabama as an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I got to saw the ins and outs of what it means to be a college coach. And I remember speaking to the head coach, which was Steve Ozoric, the guy who originally brought me to America. And we got talking one day, and he's like, "What do you like about this job?" And I'm like, "I like being on the field. I like being on the pitch and coaching." I said, "What about you?" He goes, "I just love recruiting players." And a huge part of being a college coach out in the States is the recruitment of players. So that's not just going to watch a couple of games, getting to sign them, and then that's it. It's do they speak English as a second language? So if so, they've got to take, a foreign language exam to pass. What are their grades like? Are they able to get into the college? Are they able to provide the right amount of tuition to get into the college? Financial aid, and all of that stuff was it just didn't whet my appetite for staying in the game. So it could have been any form of coaching that I would be interested in, but just seeing that college coaching aspect just kind of put me off it. And I was like, it's not for me, this.
Right. And that's understanding, it sounds like that would have been a conversation I'd love to have been part of, because you're asking about yourselves. What do you love about the job you're doing? And, do you feel he was asking you that question because he saw where your natural energy, or where your energy came from whilst you were doing the role? And, that had both of you thinking about, well, what does come next?
It's funny you say that because my main responsibility as the assistant coach is to recruit players. So head of recruitment.
Yeah.
Honestly, couldn't think of anything worse. So we basically, from that conversation, he's like, well, do you want to lead the sessions and I'll do the recruitment? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that was massively important for him to do, and for him to say, no ego here. Like, you do my job, I'll do yours, because that's what our skill sets are better suited to.
Yeah.
So I loved, leading the sessions and being out on the pitch with the boys and putting them through good sessions and how we're going to set up tactically, stuff like that. Now, that's not to say he neglected all of that. He still had final say with everything, but I'd go, we could do this, this, and this, and I'd be a little bit more vocal on the pitch as well.
I mean, you've described working as a team. You've described, an authentic, high-performing team where the two of you work together, playing to your strengths, quite simply. Very much what we do on a football field or many team sports is you identify what works for someone, what works for yourself, and if you both bring in your natural energy, you find success. And it sounds that, at least for you, was that really started to work.
Yeah, huge. And if we look at Bisterra now, with myself, Mike, who's the other co-founder, and Matt, who came on, and there's three owners, myself, Mike, and Matt. We each possess certain skill sets that are very complementary of each other. So for me, I love the one-to-one, the small group sessions, the education, the coaching education, and I also love the marketing and the social media aspect. For Mike, he loves camps. He loves the soccer camps. For Matt, he loves numbers and finances. So I think for anyone listening, a lot of the times we're told to work on our weaknesses, but I also think it's so important sometimes to double down on your strengths, because, like you said, energy is one thing. You're not going to have the same energy working on a weakness as you are trying to double down on a strength and really perfect that. So that's been a huge learning process for the three of us as well.
Hi, it's Ryan Gonsalves here. Thanks for tuning in today. I just want to take a moment to ask you an important favor. To help grow this channel, one thing will do that above more than anything else. Please hit that subscribe button. By hitting that subscribe button, you help me to grow the channel, allowing me to create more tailored content, improving the quality, and also to develop additional services such as the workshops, one-on-one sessions specifically designed to support elite athletes in that difficult transition to that career beyond sport. So if you want to join me on this journey to help inspire, guide, and connect individuals to find their second wind, please hit that subscribe button. And I think it's a wise step to take. That energy comes when you feel like you're building yourself up. And, often if you can get that balance right, some of the bits that are in your shadow, those weaknesses, those areas that develop, they're going to rise up with you as well. So, really is focusing on, like you say, doubling down on those strengths makes that impact. And for you, it's therefore started to help you to, build a successful business alongside your co-owners as well.
Yeah, and it's constantly having that, the more that we expand, it's constantly refining, those skill sets too. Mm-hmm. So something that we weren't well versed in is man management, because, before it was just us and we just have to take care of ourselves and, making sure the business is okay with us three. Now that we've brought on large staff members, like in the summer, Mike's dealing with, 50 to 60 coaches. Yeah. Some of them are high school ages too. So just being able to manage people is a skill set that we're all currently working on every day. Yeah. And that's all part of the learning experience and growing as a business and as people too.
Yeah. And so, like you say, you're running a business, you're learning as a team. How do you do you supplement, to what extent do you supplement your learning in terms of that man management? And as the business grows, is it, try and have a little test and learn, or do you do structured things to get that inside your culture?
Like listening to podcasts. So the office and where we're located for sessions is a 30-minute drive for me. So when I drive down every morning, I'll put on something, an educational podcast. It can be a mixture of everything. But I want to understand how to manage people better. That's one. Two is just being in the office now. Having our finger on the pulse of what the environment needs. For example, a staff member came in late to a meeting yesterday, and it's the first time it's happened. So it's, how do you deal with that? I think myself, Matt, and Mike all have our own styles of dealing with that. So for me, I like to put it out in the open for everyone to hear, just so that they know. But I'll do it in a jokey way. Mm-hmm. So I'll say something like, I hope that coffee's nice enough because you came in late, or something like that. Like, I hope the coffee was worth it, or something. Where, again, it's borderline. I think if we didn't have a sporting background, all of the staff members, it may come across as a little bit too forward. But for me, I think just with the staff that we've got on board and their experience back in sport, saying that, it's kind of tongue in cheek.
Yes, yeah, it is. That is a very that's a changing room mentality, changing room joke.
Yes, exactly.
You should be fining them as well for.
Yes, well, the shout did come out for fining them, yeah, but HR, Matt's in charge of HR, is like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, some things that are left behind. And look, I suppose coming, sort of starting to wrap up a little bit. I'd love to ask you then, from your experiences as I guess as a footballing experience, what are the types of things that you feel you've had to leave behind as you run your own business?
I think for people who get involved into sports from a younger age, their sport is their identity for a large part of it. Mm-hmm. And football's always been a part of my identity, but I don't want, when everyone thinks of me, I don't want them to think, oh yeah, football. So for me now, I think it's going to be more so, how do I come away from that and not have an identity tied to just the sport? It's, coach, or, leader, or something like that, rather than, football. And I think for the listeners who have gone through sporting experiences and dealt with rejection, the reason it hurts so much, the rejection, is because you lose that identity. So for me, when I got released from Port Vale, I've lost that identity of being a Port Vale player. So all of my school friends, how's Port Vale going? I lost that, which is very hard hitting at the time. So for those people who can work on other skill sets to, promote themselves as human beings and better skill sets in that area, it's gonna help them out to not be as hard hitting when, the rug does get pulled under their feet, because the rug will get pulled at certain times, and it's how you identify and adapt to that. So,
yeah. James, I think that's great. And just in there, you were giving some of those tips to anyone listening. I think it's really important that separation from what you do and who you are. And, that sounds like a journey that you continue to be on, and you recognize that. And, as a leader in a team where you're physically in the office, you're looking at how big or how far you can go as a company, you're starting to recognize that who you are will shift and adjust as you move along that path as well. So, listen, James, I want to thank you for certainly sharing your story and bringing your perspective to the Second Wind Academy podcast. I'd love to, we've got certainly listeners who are going to be new to you and what you do. Just share with me, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you or follow what you do?
So our social media channels, we're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, TikTok as one that we're adapting to, but it's at Bisterra Soccer Training, so Beestera Soccer Training. If they want to check out our website as well, it's www.bisterrasoccertraining.com. And yeah, so we put up all of our coaching techniques, certain exercises that we're doing, all on our social media platforms, and it's all free content. So,
James, thanks very much for joining me today.
thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.